You're listening to Workforce Innovation News, powered by LWIA 23. Get ready to hear about all things workforce development and workforce innovation. And now, on to the episode.
Hello, and welcome to WIN, Workforce Innovation News. I am Jamie Korda-Hajawi, the Director for LWIA 23. Today, I have Nate Carlson, the new Apprenticeship Navigator, with me. I am super excited to have Nate as part of my team, and I wanted to talk to him a little bit more and have our listeners get to know him and what his role will be at LWIA 23 and how he'll be supporting the mission of workforce development for our region. So welcome, Nate. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm glad to be here.
I'm so glad you made it. So glad. I'm super excited just to have you on the team, yes, but like the things that you're doing already are great. The entire idea of supporting apprenticeships in the area, it's thrilling. There's so many opportunities, and I just cannot wait for you to share your story and your vision of what LWIA 23 is going to look like as far as apprenticeships go. So to get started, how about you just go ahead, introduce yourself, give a little bit of your background, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So I like to describe myself as a community educator, and how I kind of came to that role for myself was a bit of a journey. So I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago in Palatine, which is about 45 minutes northwest of the city, or an hour train ride in. And 45 minutes is more of a euphemism because Chicago traffic, right? But so I grew up there, and I did my associate's degree at community college at Harper College in Palatine, Illinois, and I did that in mass communication. I was really interested in broadcast and just the creative outlet that was available through that. And so after completing that degree there, I transferred to Eastern Illinois University, just down the road in Charleston, and I ended up completing my master's degree there as well. And that opened up several opportunities for me. The first one of which was my first opportunity to work with our Coles County community, work within our LWIA 23 community, get to know the businesses in the area, and that was through employment and local radio. And through radio, I got introduced to so many of the amazing small businesses and employment opportunities that we have available through here. And for someone coming from a suburb, coming from of a large city, it's easy for people to think, oh, what's down there? But there's so much vibrant business and entrepreneurship and opportunity down here that I think a lot of people would be surprised by coming from a bigger area. And so that was really amazing to see. And another opportunity that my education at Eastern afforded me was working on a digital literacy education grant program out of Booth Library at Eastern. And that was a real community education effort where it was collaborative and working with community partners from across our region, local community colleges like Workforce Development at Lakeland College, local libraries, and of course internally at Eastern. And so that, in a way, this new role that I've stepped into with LWIA is a really hybridization of these two passions that I've had throughout this development of my career. Collaborating with local businesses in our area to do what is ultimately an educational effort, right? Apprenticeships are about mentorship. They're about providing opportunity. And yes, it's an investment of time and resources, both on the part of the employer and on the part of the apprentice, but it's one that's so valuable and pays off. And I am really excited and invested myself in seeing those opportunities flourish in our area as a part of this team.
And just hearing you talk about it, the eloquent way that you put it, it gets me even more amped, because you're exactly right. It's a way of communicating and educating the community. So I did feel like your past experience, while like on paper it doesn't say apprenticeships,
right?
It's everything that apprenticeships is. It is that communication, it's that guiding, it's that explaining, it's the support, the mentoring. All of it does come together. When we hear apprenticeships, I think a lot of people still have that traditional stereotypical image of the mason or the plumber.
I think blacksmith. I think like Ben Franklin, flying the lightning kite. But
Yes.
it's so much more than that. And there's so many contemporary, modern, even tech-driven opportunities for apprenticeships that we see across the country and especially in our region, where, one of our most exciting partnerships has been with North American Lighting, driving cutting edge of the industry in terms of the opportunities available to apprentices in our region already. And so, yeah, one of my goals for this role is really to, broaden the understanding of what we can imagine apprenticeships to be. Because the more creativity we have in our thinking about what's possible, the more opportunities there are going to be with more businesses, and ultimately we all benefit from that in the community.
You're absolutely right. And that is a really great goal to have. Let's explain to our listeners a little bit more about what your role as the Apprenticeship Navigator is, so they can see how you're going to reach that goal of having increased apprenticeships and having them in more of a non-traditional setting with different occupations. What does it mean to you to be an Apprenticeship Navigator?
Absolutely. And I love Apprenticeship Navigator because it's very catchy. And the informal title for my role, I believe, and I just saw this yesterday in a webinar, is Regional Apprenticeship Workforce Consultant. Which is a little more businessy lingo, doesn't look as good on the paper, but really I am a resource. I am a liaison between our local employers and the Department of Labor and LWIA 23. I'm the paperwork boy. It is my job to make the process of registering an apprenticeship and as painless and smoothless as possible, so that all of the immense benefits offered by apprenticeship can be accessible by as many businesses as possible. And so my role is mostly focused on outreach. I'm looking to talk to businesses, talk to local industry leaders, to help explain to them the benefits, see what issues they're having in terms of their recruitment or retention that I can help solve with apprenticeships. And so it's mostly just, getting in contact with people, hitting the pavement, and making those opportunities happen for the people of our region.
You put it perfectly when you said you are a resource. Absolutely. I mean, I feel even just WIOA in general, as the LWIA 23 here, we are a resource for our local businesses and for our local job seekers too. We're here to provide, some guidance, some support, but ultimately everyone else gets to pick their goals. They get to tell us what their needs are and how they need help. And we're just here as a resource. We are the best kept secret. And that is, that's not good. We need to be a little bit more visible. And I feel like having an apprenticeship navigator who's doing all this outreach, who's dedicated to bringing visibility to workforce development, I think that's going to help tremendously. I know it sounds like we have one apprenticeship navigator, and anyone who's listened has heard me say we serve 13 counties in this region. Right. We cover 6,500 square miles of geographic area, very rural area. So how is one person going to make a difference? So I think it's really important that we know that, Nate, you're the center of a spider web of resources.
Yes,
you are
absolutely.
The go-to, you're the face, you're the communicator, but there's so many partners in the workforce in this area that are very supportive, very dedicated to increasing apprenticeship opportunities. We have numerous education institutions, including Lakeland College, Kaskaskia College, Illinois Eastern Community Colleges. We have even more economic development organizations that are behind us and ready to offer their resources in any way they can. And then we have several businesses that, like NAL, who have already been implementing apprenticeships. They're seeing that return on investment for them, and they want to spread the news as well. So yes, Nate, we're glad to have you part of the team, but it's a pretty big spread out team as well. So yeah, it's nice to have someone dedicated to that.
And I'm really just one facet of an incredibly multifaceted approach to workforce development that's happening at LWIA 23. I've said this already in meetings with our local businesses, which is that using the apprenticeship model, taking advantage of, my role as a resource is in no way mutually exclusive with taking advantage of the other amazing opportunities presented by LWIA, whether that's incumbent worker training, whether that's on the job or youth services. They all work together to provide those opportunities for businesses and individuals alike.
So you already talked to us about one of your goals of establishing apprenticeships in some of those occupations that we don't traditionally associate with apprenticeships. What other goals or visions do you have as the Apprenticeship Navigator?
Absolutely. So because I am a resource and because we are working on behalf of the entire community, one of my broader goals is to develop apprenticeship models that reflect our entire community through diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so opening up opportunities for yes, more diverse trades, but also trades that aren't typically see representation in terms of these kind of opportunities. So, making sure we get, more women, more people of color in apprenticeship opportunities in the area, and seeking out industries and, businesses that reflect those needs. Because, when we all succeed, we all succeed.
That's terrific. You put that very well. I love it. We are seeing that increased diversity in the workforce leads to more success and builds empathy. There's so many benefits to it. Looking beyond just diversity, equity, and inclusion, what other kind of benefits would you like to talk about as far as apprenticeships go?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of the times businesses say, okay, yeah, I can understand why the apprenticeship model pays off so well for the apprentice. After all, they're getting that earning and learning. They're getting that nationally registered credential. They're getting the experience of having a mentor, but what's in it for me? Why should I make this investment? And one of the hugest things with apprenticeship is that it's reducing turnover costs and recruitment costs in a time when both of those expenses have never been higher, and when turnover has never been more of an issue. And we were just at a summit the other week where there was a guest speaker talking about what a monumental shift we've seen in the labor force in terms of retention and how that's working out for employers, and they're realizing suddenly it's not a few decades back where employees were staying with the same company for 30 years. And more and more, it's becoming more difficult for employers to find those, people who want to make that long-term investment. And apprenticeships are a really great model for building that investment that the employee has in the employer. Because when the apprentice feels that you've put those resources into them, they're going to want to give back. They're going to show that dedication that we're not seeing so much anymore. And so, the ROI we see for apprenticeships is, yeah, you might be putting in some money, but for every dollar you spend on average, the employer ends up making $1.50 back as their ROI. So they pay off in the long run. And not to mention, because I am that liaison between you and the Department of Labor, you're getting a little something too. You're getting a $3,500 tax credit per active apprentice per year. And that's not nothing. But also, if you hire an apprentice who meets our WIA eligibility requirements, you're getting an additional $1,500 tax credit per active apprentice per year. And so you get 2 or 3 apprentices, you're looking at up to $15,000 in tax credits, plus $1.50 on the dollar ROI. That's just good business.
That's really good business. So it's just kind of mind-boggling still why people aren't jumping on this bandwagon of apprenticeships and why there's any hesitancy. Are you seeing, I know it's still early on, you're just coming on your first few weeks here, but are you seeing that there's still hesitancy out there? Or because like you said, we're having this modern problem of retention, keeping people on, having skilled labor shortage, all of this going on at the same time, are you seeing that they're more likely to kind of consider this, while it's not really new and innovative, we've been doing it for hundreds of years really, but looking at it from this new perspective of non-traditional occupations and everything, are you seeing more people kind of lean towards it, bite, and really consider implementing apprenticeships at their locations?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, I was expecting to see more hesitancy, but actually what I've seen so far across the board is excitement. Both before and after, employers have even had the opportunity to learn the amazing benefits offered by the apprenticeship model. First they're curious, and then once we start throwing them, all these benefits that are going to be coming their way from utilizing this model, suddenly there's excitement because they're realizing, oh my goodness, this is the workforce solution I've been looking for. This is what's going to take this process of recruitment and retention and simplify it. And I think there's a real willingness to try and a real excitement to see those benefits in action. And I think feeling that excitement from the business side of the community, I just know that's going to have a positive ripple effect on the community at large. Because once you have individuals seeing that there's these opportunities that are developing to get this national credential, have a business help you pay for your certification or your degree, make that long-term investment that they want you to build a career here in our community. That's going to do a lot for a lot of people who may right now be thinking, I don't know where the opportunities are at, or I don't feel like employers are making the investment in me that I would like them to, or giving me the opportunities I would like them to. And suddenly you're going to see a huge culture shift just in the way we feel about our careers, the way we feel about work, the way we feel about economic opportunity in our region. And I think that's huge, and it's crucial to strengthening our communities moving forward. And so I've definitely felt that excitement on the business side, and I'm certain that as we move forward, we're going to see that across the board.
I'm glad you're seeing that excitement. That's relieving just in itself. But I do think it's really important to connect those dots between what you were saying about how an apprenticeship for the apprentice really shows them that their employer is investing in them and believes in them, and that develops a stronger sense of loyalty as well. We're seeing a lot of the things that we're hearing and seeing from regional HR managers, plant managers, business owners is where they're succeeding with keeping people on is when they're really treating them as an individual, seeing
Right.
What their experiences are, what their challenges are, and helping them overcome it and getting them to work. And I think apprenticeships is just another way to really take that human-centered approach in cultivating this individual, developing them through this work plan, and getting them to believe in themselves, to accomplish their own goals, and to have this confidence, and then build that relationship, that rapport, that loyalty with the employer. And it's just another way of really addressing this problem that we're seeing right now of there not being very strong loyalty, of it being an employee's market, and they're able to hop from one opportunity to the other. And this is a good way to kind of try to mitigate that a bit. So I know I've probably talked about this in at least one or two other episodes, but I do think it bears repeating is tell us how complicated the process of registering an apprenticeship is. It's super complicated, right? Because federal government, there must be a ton of paperwork. You got to jump through a ton of flaming hoops, and this is so difficult, right?
Well, you would be massively incorrect. And I was worried when I started. My job is paperwork handler. Again, I take any would-be stress on the Department of Labor, federal government side, and I make it disappear. That's my job. I'm handling that, headache so the employer doesn't have to. But then I don't even have to have that much of a headache either, because the actual paperwork required to register your apprenticeship is surprisingly minimal. Because 9 times out of 10, what we're able to do as we develop these apprenticeship programs is find existing apprenticeships that have already been registered, that already have an existing what we call work process schedule, and kind of craft that to suit the needs of the individual employer. So there's not a lot of startup to getting the actual paperwork done. We can move through the process fairly easily. We have great collaboration with the Department of Labor, where they're willing to work with us to meet the needs of the employer. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about, is you talked about individuality being recognized on the part of the apprentice. And there is so much flexibility with apprenticeships to recognize the individuality, not just of the apprentices, but of the employers. We are not giving you a one-size-fits-all apprenticeship. We're not saying this is what you have to train, this is where you have to learn. That's all decided by the employer to fit the needs of the individual. So if you have a specific skill set you're looking to fill within your company, we don't have to train your apprentice the same way we're training that they're being trained at other companies. We can meet your needs specifically. And on the classroom instruction side, we can meet the needs of your student. If they say, hey, I think it would really benefit me to take this class related to my role, we can work that into their work process schedule. So now they're developing the specific needs they need as an individual. So on both sides of the equation, we see an incredible amount of flexibility. which, and again, you would think that requires more paperwork, but it doesn't. It's still a streamlined process, and I'm here to make it even more streamlined for the employer.
So there's tons of possibilities. There's lots of flexibility. And then we have a navigator to lead you through the process from the initial conception of the idea of implementing apprenticeships all the way through registering and beyond.
Yes.
Let's do some apprenticeships. There's no reason not to at this point, right?
Absolutely. And my email inbox is wide open, ncarlson@lakelandcollege.edu. If you're hearing this and you think, I want to get in contact about that right now, you don't even need a subject line. I'll accept emails without subject lines. Just put help me ... apprenticeships, and I will get back to you and we'll work something out. I'm not even requiring full legible sentences. That's how invested I am in making apprenticeships work for you and your business.
Amazing. Yes. So please reach out to Nate. Again, ncarlson@lakelandcollege.edu. You can check out our website, LWIA23.net, and connect to Nate through there. You can check out any of our social media at LWIA23. That's LWIA23. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube as well. Thank you so much, Nate, for being here today, talking to everyone about apprenticeships and just everything that you've done so far and all that you are going to do. I'm super excited. Tons of potential for opportunities here. Let's get going.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, thank you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
You've been listening to Workforce Innovation News powered by LWIA 23. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about LWIA 23, visit lwa23.net.